Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We now come to the question period. But before that, Senor Rodriguez wanted to make a statement on something he said.
Well, I missed an important piece of information. The figures I presented were for 2008, and actually it was in the written presentation, I didn't say it. The projection for 2009 is a reduction estimated by ECLAC between 35 and 45%. There is a projection coming out soon on the figure, depending on the behavior of the first semester. And the figures for 2008 were driven basically for what happened in the first semester, with differences between South America and Central America. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please fire away. Question? After those lovely presentations, I'm sure they answered most of the questions, but we must have at least one question from the floor. It wouldn't look good or sound good. I know, of course, lunchtime. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank you. I thought all the presentations were excellent. To play a little bit of devil's advocate, though, because I think for folks that have been going to these things for 20 plus years, this list of things to do looks sadly familiar. If you had to pick two things from the panel to say if we only invested in those, what would you think would be the top two to unlock and get private investment flowing in sort of the local entrepreneurship so that you wouldn't have to tackle all these things simultaneously, which is a tall task? The ones that come to mind that maybe you can comment on are the infrastructure and storage issues, and whether that would start to unlock, and then you would get the inputs in, you'd get research going, you'd get the private sector more. I'll stop there.
Gentlemen, who would like?
Thank you, and I think I'll be partly addressing also your question that you left after my presentation. The two, if out of the 5 areas that I presented, the 2 areas that the bank has been, at least in the dialogue with our client countries, is first this reduction in investments in public goods and services that we've seen in agriculture, specifically in countries where agriculture is a big part of the economy, research and development, rural infrastructure, agriculture, education, and vocational training, these type of agriculture services that have been declining. And then the second priority is, as the graph I showed was, where we see an increase in subsidies and transfers from public sector and consumers to producers on making those first more efficient. We see that from the dollars being invested in this type of programs, only a small percentage actually reach producers, but also doing it in a way that is sustainable. So if, for example, I'm going to put an example of a project recently approved in Jamaica of a rural economic development project where resources are transferred to communities. It doesn't make sense to make investments at the farm level for small farmers if there's no framework to cope with catastrophic risks, and when the next hurricane comes, the assets are lost. So just to summarize, the 2 main areas that the dialogue with the client countries have focused is one on increasing investment in public goods and services in agriculture, and second, to make these programs either being social safety nets or support to small farmers for innovation, adoption in technology, be more efficient, and considering the risk management aspects that will make those investments sustainable.
Thank you, Senor. Any other members wish to? Senor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, actually, I first thought I would reply infrastructure and institutions, but then on reflection, no, I wouldn't want to do that. Why? Because one of the things that came out in the calculations is that there are strong synergies between the various areas. And so it is very hard to say we only invest in investment area A and then still expect to have the same impact from that investment if we don't invest in B, C, and D. That's the first thing. Then the other thing, and Jeffrey Sachs actually made that quite clear. The fact that you can't extinguish a big fire with a bucket full of water doesn't really mean that water isn't the remedy against a big fire. It needs a critical mass of investment. If you continue to try to extinguish a big fire with a small bucket full of water, you will never succeed. So if you want to do it properly, you need some money. And the other thing is, and I tried to mention it already in the first part of the answer, is another thing that clearly came out, such an investment endeavor is a complex thing where you really have to time and sequence and pace the various steps very carefully. Just to say I pick and choose this and rely on its effectiveness is certainly not enough.
Thank you, sir. Senor Rodriguez.
Well, I was going to say something similar. I think in terms of priorities, it is an issue of institutional economics. I mean, if you want to have all of this, you have to have good institutions, and that is something you invest in the very long run. And, for example, for the two examples that I put, contract farming, to have good contracts with the private sector, you have to have also a very well organized institutional setting that is able to promote that. And also in the case of public-private partnerships, it is an issue of transparency, it is an issue of building trust between both sectors, and that requires a lot of institutional development. And there are examples also in the region where this issue shows, for example, in the case of how the INEA in Uruguay is organized. I mean, it is the only research and development institute in the region that has a financing structure in which the producers pay a tax on exports, and with that, part of that, it goes to the budget of the institute, and the other portion comes from the government. Similar arrangements, for example, in Colombia and other countries show that investing in institutional development pays in terms of developing arrangements which are favorable for small farms. And if you want to do something on that, well, you have to also invest a lot on education and the youth.
Thank you, ma'am. And I want to congratulate the lady because that is a key factor. In most areas of life, my opinion, you can fix something. Like if you want a house, you fix the roof, or you add another room, or you fix the driveway. If you want to get agriculture moving, you have to fix everything. You have to tell the farmer to plow the land properly, to check to see that the soil is the right type of soil, to get the exact proper seed, to get the proper insecticide, to get the proper reaping system, to get the proper roads, to get the proper water supply, to get the proper market, to get the proper grading, to get everything right, the proper financing. You can't, if you leave out one, the entire thing fails. And where I think we've been going wrong in a lot of these things, a program comes in and it's going to put roads in an area, and you expect production to go up. Well, some people will have production going up, but many people will say, yes, so we have a road, but I don't have any money. Or he'll say, I have money, but I don't have access to land. Or he plants, and then the entire crop goes down because of some weevil or some fungus or some bacterium. He doesn't have the capacity. So we have to have an all-encompassing program that allows every aspect to be looked at. Otherwise, the thing doesn't work. And it's not because I say so or I want it to be so. It's because that's the way God made the world.